Good afternoon. Welcome to Drawing with Mr. Hutch. In today's episode, we're going to talk about one-point perspective to help us create three-dimensional shape. We've been doing a little bit of three-dimensional sketching, but I want to give you some tips and some strategies to help you make those three-dimensional shapes really well proportioned and following the one-point perspective rule. So today what you're going to need is you're going to need a pencil, a ruler, and probably an eraser. Okay, so when we're using one-point perspective, some of you may be familiar, we need a vanishing point. And a vanishing point is the point in the distance where all of our horizontal lines disappear or vanish to. The idea is similar to standing on the middle of a road, straight road, and looking off into the distance and seeing that that road vanishes into the distance. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by creating our vanishing point. Vanishing point. I'm writing that very small. Might be a little bit hard to read, but I need lots of the page to work with today. Okay, so there's our vanishing point. And what we're doing today is 1 point perspective. And this is just kind of an introduction to 1 point perspective. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a variety of shapes that all go off into the distance and vanish to our vanishing point. So let's start with a cube. Lots of you are able to draw a cube on your own without a vanishing point. You just are familiar with the angles, etc. Cube is pretty common, little doodle that people get familiar with. But here's a strategy to make it look really three-dimensional and follow a strategy that is a no-fail kind of strategy. All right, so here's our square. Now we need to turn this into a cube. So what we're going to do is we're going to think about all of the horizontal lines, okay? The lines moving back into the distance. So we're going to start here. Okay, and you see how that goes right from the vanishing point to that corner. All right, and then we're going to go down to the next corner. And these are planning lines. They can be nice and light because you'll see what I mean in a second. And then lastly, this corner is going to go off into this vanishing point. Okay, right now it just looks like a tower, like a tall rectangular triangular prism. But that's not what we want. What we now need to determine is where does this end? Where does this cube end? So I want it, these lines are going to be, they're going to follow the lines of the original square shape. So this is going to be a perfectly horizontal line. Right here. Okay. And then this vertical line is going to be a perfectly vertical line that matches up right there. All right. There is a perfect rectangular prism. It's not quite a cube, but you get the idea. All right. There's a cube. Next, let's try a triangular prism, just like we had talked about. So we start with the basic shape, which is a triangle. And then the lines that are moving back into the distance all end at our vanishing point. Just like that. Now, where does this triangular prism end? Let's give it a width just like that. All right, and then we erase our planning lines. Okay. And last, let's do kind of it's not exactly just a straight geometric shape. We're going to do a three-dimensional letter. So let's go with the letter E. using our 1-point perspective. Okay, so we're going to start with the rectangle. Okay, that's the basic shape of an E. Then we're going to determine how thick our triangle is, our E is, and rough in those lines. All right, and the center line is just going to be a little bit shorter than the rest. Then go in and erase the planning lines that we no longer require. Okay, so there's our E. Okay, and back to our vanishing point. Now here, this line, I'm going to line up at the vanishing point, but I'm just going to draw it as far as I need to. I'm not going to go over top and all the way to the back. And same with this line down here. I'm just going to line it up, make sure that it's pointed right towards that vanishing point, and then just go to where it needs to be cut off. All right, now how deep our E is, let's make it about that deep. Just like that, and erase our planning lines. All right, so there's a 1-point perspective strategy in creating 3-dimensional shapes. So there's one other shape that I'd like you to practice. And this one is not going to be on a vanishing point. It's just going to be a 3-dimensional cylinder. So we use cylinders a lot in character design for our biceps, our thighs, etc. So the way that we create cylinders or draw cylinders is we start with a squashed circle. Okay. And dial this in a bit. And then we can use a ruler to give us our straight lines, just like that. And then the bottom is going to be a squashed circle as well. Squash circle, and then 2 lines throughout. Now you're actually not going to be able to see this line because it is actually behind the cylinder if the cylinder is solid, right? So there's our cylinder. Now, once you have these 4 shapes, I'm going to get you to practice your shading again, all right? So what I would like you to do is, sun is hitting, or the light is hitting this cube from this side. All right, so we're going to have light to dark. Okay, this side is going to be all in shadow. And now we're really trying to respond to the light. I won't make you do drop shadows on these today. I just want you to shade this 3-dimensional shape. The more practice you get with this, the better you're going to get at it. And this side is going to go from light to dark. Okay, so this is where I really want you to try to make sure you've got all of the 5-step grayscale. You've got your whites, you've got your 1s, your 2s, your 3s, to your 4s, okay? And it needs to be a smooth transition. I don't want it to be striped, okay? That was just my example last video to show you kind of where those values will end up. Okay, and then you can go back in with eraser if you want to just really find those 0 values. Sorry, the 1 value. All right, and then for the E, let's do light coming from this direction. Okay, so this front is going to be all in shadow. So this can be at a 5 on the front. Because I'm kind of having the light kind of come from behind and on the side. All right, so then if this is like that, then this is going to be very light on the top. Maybe a 1, and then here, you're going to have the shadows kind of close, but as it comes out to the light, it starts to lighten. Just to add a little bit of a highlight on that edge there. Okay. I think I actually need to darken up my darks on this cube. Okay, really trying to create that 3-dimensional feel, light wrapping around these objects. Okay. We'll go like this light for the triangle. Okay, so this is going to be an all white, all of 1. And this is going to go from about a 3 to a 4 to a 5 on the front. 3, 1 to a 4 to a 5 down in this corner. Now, you might be wondering, why is Mr. Hutch getting me to just do shapes all the time? Well, like you saw when we did our geometric body, everything breaks down. Maybe you can give it just a little bit of a 2 here on this side. Everything breaks down into basic shapes. And we are going to use this whole idea of basic shapes, wireframes, shading to create characters. All right. Now, this one we're going to go directly from the side. So we're going to have white, 1 to a 2 to a 3 to a 4 to a 5. Okay, and then we're going to blend those. I want it to look like stripes. Should be a gradual, smooth transition from light to dark. The cylinder should start to look very rounded. So we're using the 1-point perspective strategy to really get a good looking 3-dimensional shapes. Okay, and we're practicing our shading again. And if you want to do different types of shading, I'm doing pretty much all smooth shading, because that's the type of shading I use the most. Okay. All right. There's your assignment for today. 1-point perspective shapes. giving them 3 dimensions, and then using what we know about our value, our grayscale, to give each shape value, to make it really push the idea of form, 3-dimension, etc. Come in with your finger, get a nice blend going. Okay. And then always feel free to clean up your edges. All right. That is our 1-point perspective lesson for today. Thanks for tuning in. I will talk to you soon.